Okay. So again, just to go through, I will give a bit of an introduction. I'll give some information about all three of you, and then some information about the network and what we do, and then a bit of information about our next event in September. And then I will start handing it over to you guys. Pip will go first, then Bernadette, and then Victoria. Cool. Sorry, this is more for me. This is more.
No, okay. Don't worry. I'm suddenly panicking that I've got stuff on, so I'm making sure everything's on. Hilariously, Alexa always talks when I'm on calls, so I'm like.
Oh, that's a good call. I'm gonna shut off my Google phone now.
So I think we have quite a few people who joined us already. We have like 20 people already, and we have more to come. Saba, can you see the people, the attendees?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool, perfect.
Great. And everyone now is live in the session with us, correct?
Yep.
Perfect. Cool. Well, I think we'll give it a couple more minutes, and then we can start at about 5 past. Just to make sure that we get everyone on here. I see we're starting to get a couple of messages in our chat, which is great. If our attendees would like to start telling us maybe where they're from, and we can see what our demographics look like. Wow, we've got someone all the way from Pakistan. That's amazing. Quite a few Londoners. What's the weather like in London today? Is it quite nice and hot and sunny?
It's kind of grey, sunny-ish in between. So yeah.
Okay.
It's warm, which is lovely. Like Sunday was really warm but torrential rain. So it was like sunny and then torrential, sunny then torrential, which I actually love.
Do you? I never know what to wear on those kind of days.
As long as it's warm, I don't mind.
No, I agree. Yeah, I'm in Edinburgh at the moment, and well, today's all right, but yesterday it was just like pouring down. So I am a little bit jealous of London at the moment. Grey, regular London. Oh, yeah, thank you. Love the chats we're getting. London's not quite summery. No, not really, but I think compared to Edinburgh, it probably is.
Yeah, and this Friday's meant to be beautiful.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, jealous. Cool. Well, I think we can start in about a minute or so. St. Albans.
What I love about virtual conferences, it's open to everyone.
Oh, Pip, we have a question for you. What's behind you?
Oh, I live on a houseboat in King's Cross, so this is my boat, Horace.
I look like King's Cross.
Yeah, so I'm literally down the way from Granary Square. So yeah, I live on a houseboat and work on a houseboat now, obviously.
I probably right by your houseboat whenever I go for a run or walk.
Oh, mate, yeah, it's called Horace. So have a look out for Horace. And I've got a little rowboat. It's we've got a little rowboat outside. So Horace with a rowboat. You can wait.
I'll look for it when I do my daily walk.
It's lovely. Yeah, walking the canal during lockdown has been just so nice. Such a blessing, to be honest.
Yeah, can imagine. Like you have all the outdoors that you need being on a boat. The whole place is your outdoors.
Yeah, we've been doing social distancing rowing because we've got the rowboat, which it's been nice.
Amazing. Cool. Well, I think we can get started. Wow, we've got already 43 attendees. That's amazing. Cool. Let's start the session then. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. Awesome. Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining our first ever London Tech Ladies online events, celebrating women in tech with inspiring career stories. We are thrilled that you've joined us for a session. It's an exciting one with a brilliant panel who will hopefully be a source of inspiration and motivation for you today. Our event is all about bringing forward and celebrating fabulous women that make up part of our tech industry. And we have 3 amazing women that will be sharing their career journeys with you, their highs and lows, personal experiences, lessons learned, and some tips for you to take away. So in our panel, we've got Pip Jamieson joining us, who is the founder and CEO of The Dots. The Dots is designed around the networking team, networking needs of no-collar professionals, including creators, freelancers, and entrepreneurs, and it's been dubbed the next LinkedIn by Forbes. Pip is the picture on the left bottom hand side, just so that you guys know who she is. Pip was named by the Sunday Times as one of the top 100 disruptive entrepreneurs innovating in their respective fields. She was also named as one of the top 50 creative leaders by the Creative Review and as one of 50 Trailblazers of the Future by Campaign. Helping businesses build diverse teams is at the heart of everything that The Dot does, and they also do a lot of work around socioeconomic and neurodiversity to fuel a more balanced industry of the future. Our second speaker is Bernadette Carter, who is an overarching tech lead of the Geo Merchant Platform team at Google. Prior to this role, she transitioned Google Plus into an enterprise-only product and holds more than 40 patents. Bernadette is on the bottom right hand of the screen. In addition to innovation, Bernadette has a passion for encouraging others to pursue STEM-related fields. To that end, she has served as a TV script advisor as part of Google's CS and Media initiative, which aims to end damaging stereotypes associated with computer science. She's also an active member of /dev/color and enjoys mentoring the next generation of software engineers. And last but not least, we have Victoria Pepiat, who you can see at the top right-hand corner, who is the co-founder and CEO at Phrasee, which empowers brands with the most advanced AI-powered copywriting technology to boost marketing performance and revenue. She leads the company's global operations and is responsible for the success of Phrasee's global customers, which include names such as eBay, Domino's, Groupon, Joanne, and Virgin Atlantic. Under her stewardship, Phrasee grew to become a multi-million technology company. Recently named Management Today's Tech Entrepreneur of the Year at the Inspiring Women in Business Awards, Victoria brings an impressive 20-year track record in marketing, technology, and business management to Phrasee. She's a passionate supporter of women in technology and devotes her time to mentoring young entrepreneurs. So as you can see, we've got a panel today that is just oozing with talent and experience. Our speakers will be giving a short presentation and then we will commence with Q&A. But before I hand it over to our speakers, let me try and work these slides, there we go. I would like to start off by giving you guys a little bit of information on our network, London Tech Ladies, especially for those of you that are joining us for the very first time. London Tech Ladies was originally created for women working in technology space who are interested in making connections and working to empower themselves and each other. However, with time, we found that our content and events attracted audiences from different genders, industries, and backgrounds. And we strive to continue expanding our member base as such. Everyone is always welcome to our network and our events. Primarily, we aim to develop and inspire women to move up the career ladder, but ultimately, our end goal is to create more diversity in the upper levels of management and ultimately the boardroom. We focus specifically on soft skill professional development, and we meet every month to discuss topics that are related to common themes such as self-development, professional growth, work-life balance, and career and goal planning. We often have wonderful speakers, like we do today, to inspire us, or coaches to lead us with practical workshops. The sessions that you can see on the slide are just some of the topics that we've held events for, and we are always open to getting feedback from you in regards to what other topics you would like to see us host events for. So please do let us know and get in touch. And as a leadership coach, Sherry Bevan said, everyone has a potential to develop into the role of a leader, given the right support and opportunities. And that is what we want to do here at London Tech Ladies. We aim to deliver a space for you to grow and develop and support one another using the right tools and resources. And as some of you may have already heard, London Tech Ladies leadership team has expanded with a few new faces on board. We will be announcing the team makeup quite soon. However, we do have one open role that's left for another leader to join us. Details on that will also follow. So please do keep that in mind. And if it's something that is of interest of you, we want to hear from you. Please do reach out to us and let us know. And then just to touch on our next event, which will be held in September on the 29th, how to think critically about race. In this insightful session, we will be joined by speaker Elijah Lawal, who will share his experiences and lead an interactive Q&A on how we can hold discussions on race in a respectful and constructive manner so that we can all support each other in a more equitable future. We really do hope that you join us for this insightful and educational session, because we truly believe this is not a time to be idle. This is a time for us to continue these conversations, no matter how uncomfortable they may be, and just to take action, because we need to strive for better together. Elijah is the Communications and Public Affairs Manager at Google. He is also a board member of Creative Access, which is an organization aimed at helping young people from Black, Asian, and non-white minority ethnic backgrounds, as well as those with a lower socioeconomic status, to secure both jobs and paid training opportunities in creative companies. Elijah is also the author of The Clapback, Your Guide to Calling Out Racist Stereotypes. Please do check out his book if you haven't already. You will find a link to the book in our event page, which will go live right after this session. And I think that is it from me. I'm sure you're very excited to start hearing from our amazing speakers. So with that, Pip, the platform is all yours.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. How you doing? So yeah, lovely to see everyone here. Quick question, because I'm hilariously have 3 screens going on the go, but if I press play, can everyone see the main screen that says, if it's not been easy, it will be worth it? Yes? That was my dyslexia mumbling that. Brilliant. Yeah, so I guess this is my quick fire talk on just a little bit about myself and why I started, I guess, the dots, and a bit of a warts and all story, I guess, about the things I've gone through and the highs and lows. And I'm going to close with a few things I've learned the hard way. But in terms of,
Pip, sorry, we are also seeing your next slide. So we can see your first slide and then we can see the second one as well.
How's that?
No, we can just see presenter notes, slide 1 now.
This is brilliant. Well done. This is the beginning of the talk too. How's that?
There we go. Perfect.
Yay! Okay, brilliant. Brilliant. It's so funny. Like, I'm obviously working from my houseboat. For the first time in my life, I feel like a stockbroker. So I have a screen there, a screen there, and a screen there. So it means for presentations, it's a nightmare. Anyway, hello everyone. So yeah, just a bit about myself. So I started my career as I studied maths and economics at university, and then I went into the fast stream civil service. But I spent most of my career in tech. So I started my first startup in 2009 and then launched the Dots over here. Fun fact, I live on a houseboat, but I'm also dyslexic. And the reason I kind of mention this when I do talks is I sometimes muddle words, so huge apologies. Definitely ask me questions if you don't understand what I'm saying. But I'm not sure if anyone's dyslexic who's on the line, but fun fact, 35% of entrepreneurs are dyslexic and 40% of self-made millionaires. So congratulations, it's a superpower. So everyone from Anita Broderick, Joe Malone, Steve Jobs was dyslexic and autistic, and Einstein was ADHD, dyslexic and autistic, which is like the dynamite combination. So I'm just going to give you a little bit, for those of you that don't know the Dots, what the Dots is, and I guess the, yeah, as I said, the warts and all story of how I started the platform. So I'm a non-tech founder. I mean, I didn't study computer science. I mean, interestingly, no one even said to me as a career option, even though I ended up studying maths at uni, that computer science was a career option. But I was just one of those people that saw a problem and wanted to create a solution. And what I started realizing is there was this group of people I was surrounded with, which were working in this just very different way than the traditional white collar way of work, which was, you know, looked after by LinkedIn. So I wanted to create a different professional networking solution that was built for a future workforce that was more fluid, more virtual. So if you haven't checked out the Dots, the way we support our community is we help them connect with like-minded people. Instead of a CV, people promote themselves via projects. So a project could be an app, for example, and this is UI designer, UX designer, front-end engineer, back-end engineer. So the platform acts a bit like a wiki and the people and teams behind it. And from there, we help our community upskill via virtual events, connect to flexible work, so remote working, freelance working, and full-time jobs, and help get collaborations and ideas off the ground. So yeah, I founded it from this houseboat. Actually, I actually started the platform on here, so it's lovely to come back round. We now have over 500,000 members, and we're working with over 10,000 brands that use us to hire talent. But at the heart of everything that I created was trying to democratize the industry. And, you know, I love men, by the way, but of our 500,000 strong community, 68% are female, 31% BAME, 16% LGBT. And we do a lot of work, as you mentioned, supporting socioeconomic movement and neurodiverse talent. So for example, with our algorithms, educational background doesn't even filter in our algorithms because that causes inherent biases of who you recruit. But yeah, as I said, I'm a non-tech founder, so this has been an insane journey for me. And so this is my happy, sad graph. So everything in the top quadrant is like when I'm on top of the world, this thing's amazing, this is the most amazing journey I've ever done. Everything in the bottom quadrant is when I'm crying on my husband's shoulder, like, what have I done? This, I want to have a job where I don't have all this stress. And this is, as I mentioned, actually my second business. I started my first business, tech business in Australia. And it was a bit like a baby sister version of the Dots. And I grew that business to being the biggest networking solution for the creative industries over there. And then I sold that business and basically started with the money I made from Australia. I started the Dots and seed funded the Dots myself. So from an outsider's perspective, I've had this kind of really easy journey. But the reality of what I've been through, and I think anyone who's tried to do anything ambitious with their life, is actually this. So this is my crazy roller coaster ride of starting businesses. And I mean, I've been the happiest I've ever been in my life, and I've been the most scared and out of my depth. And what am I doing? I won't go through all the highs and lows, but can you see that like one that's coming right off the scale, the one right at the bottom? I guess the most challenging thing I ever went through career-wise is I started the business in Australia with a co-founder. And if anyone's on the call and has ever had a challenge where two co-founders want to take a business in different directions and had to split, that's what I went through over there. So very long story short, I had to sell my business in Australia, but I acquired the global technology rights, and everything I made in Australia, I reinvested here. It was a really horrible, challenging time. You know, you pour your heart, body and soul into building a business, and then to have to let it go, to start all over again was just really grueling. My husband recently asked me how much money I've got left in our Australian bank account. And well, he's been asking me for about a year actually, and I'm too scared to tell him because I spent it all on starting the dots. So, but you know, it's been grueling, but definitely worth it. And so I had to go from startup to scale up, back to startup again. But I guess I wanted to share a few things I've learned the hard way. Firstly, when it comes to creating products, tech is so important and the product itself is so important. But I think the reason the Dots has thrived is because we've always put our community first and our community's needs first. And so we always think people first in terms of product development. I think the other reason I've kind of managed to navigate the horrific highs and lows and get the energy to get through this is because I've found and I'm so sorry, this is my dyslexia, but I think it's pronounced itiagi. It's a Japanese philosophy, but I'm very blessed that I found the combination between what I love and what I'm good at, what I get paid for, and what the world needs. And, you know, that magic moment came where I don't mind, and I do crazy hours. I do sort of 16 to 18-hour days, 6 days a week, but it never feels really like work because it's just something that I love and live and breathe. Obviously, every founder says this as well, but you know, it's all about the team, and I'm only as good as the collection of people that I have around me. And with team, what I've realized is happy team and diverse team are productive and teams. And you know, everything I have tried to create at the Dots is a wonderful place where I put the team's happiness above everything else. And what's been kind of insane about that is kind of how little people leave the Dots, which is sort of a lovely way to be. And I haven't got much time, so I will hurry up. I'm not actually sure how much time I've got left, so do wave if I'm running late. But I guess the other thing is, you know, this has been a really grueling journey. I've had to learn everything, basically. I've had to develop my understanding of technology. I've had to learn how to be a business person. I've had to learn how to be a leader. I've had to learn how to raise investment. So the way I do that, because my dyslexia is really challenging to read, I listen to Audible books. So every morning I walk and listen to new books, and here are some of my favorites. But it's a continuous learning loop for me, because I just am always, to be honest, out of my depth. But I have learned that you can learn everything. And when I can't learn from a book, I lean on amazing mentors. And I think the challenge I've had about being a woman in tech is I was so desperate to get female tech leaders as mentors. And I was emailing all these people like Sherry Kuti and going, will you be my mentor? And the challenge is no one was getting back to me. I was like, this is so rude. Like, why are women not supporting other women? And what I suddenly came to realize is I probably get about 60 emails a week now from female founders wanting me to be a mentor. And it's physically not possible for me to catch up with everyone. So I actually changed tact. And I went after leading men in the tech industry who had daughters. And off the back of that, I've managed to build up this insane portfolio of mentors, like the Ben Grohl, who's in the photo there. Ben invented growth at Facebook, because I've just realized there's so few of us at the top. And it can be challenging for us to help everyone. And yeah, the other thing I've learned is the need to be surrounded by other founders. And I'm so sorry there's so many men in this picture, but welcome to the world I live in. Just to put it into context, only 9% of angel funding goes to female founders, and we raised 4 million. And at my level, it's only 2.3. So these days I have to surround myself a lot with men and navigate that. But what I have found is there are just some brilliant men in the industry who really, really want to support more diversity across the industry. And my final tip is, if you ever want to do anything ambitious, my secret has been getting support from my friends, from my family, and from my husband. I've seen lots of businesses fail over the years, not because they didn't have a great idea or they didn't have funding, but because they had people that weren't their cheerleaders and were sucking their energy. So this is my amazing husband. He's got business cards that say head of special projects. And he plays Father Christmas, finds my office, and he's just amazing. So yeah, I guess my key takeout to all of this, Seth Godin said it really well, is doing anything ambitious with your life, I've found, is a bit like blowing those like kids balloons, you know, those ones that are really hard to blow. You puff and nothing happens, but suddenly it gets easier and easier. And I guess that's how I've managed to navigate the highs and lows. So I'm not telling you it's easy, but I'm telling you it's worth it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Pip. That was brilliant. And I think it's really important to you know, on what you touched on, where it is your life, being sometimes the only woman in the picture, but it's also good to understand that there are men out there that are trying to help and make a difference. And I think that's one of the reasons we want to make sure that everyone is welcome in this network, because things are not going to change unless we are all working together, regardless of whether you're men or women. Yeah, thank you so much for that. That was amazing. And now we will go on to our next speaker, Bernadette. The floor is all yours.
Okay, let's see. Can you see my slides?
Yep, all good.
Perfect. So hi, good afternoon. I'm Bernadette. I'm a senior staff software engineer over at Google, and I'm just going to share a little bit of my career journey starting from high school on to where I am today. So one thing that I've noticed for myself is like my interest changed over time. I actually started off thinking that I wanted to be an accountant. I was really big into finance. And as part of that, I actually ended up going to a high school which specialized in business law and finance. And once I started taking accounting classes, I actually realized, I could do this. It's just not as interesting as I thought it was for me. So then I started kind of like reevaluating. I was like, what makes me pretty interested? What gets me excited? And I realized I was always on my computer. I loved using it for communication. I loved pretty much just like doing everything I could online. And I was like, you know what? I think since I spend all my time here, I should just go explore and see if there's any type of career that I can kind of do this full time. So I kind of discovered software engineering, and right at the right time for my high school, because they just got a programming class for the very first year of my senior year, my 12th grade year. So I ended up taking that programming class and absolutely loving it, kind of like breaking down large problems into smaller problems that you could actually end up coding. And as part of that, I was like, okay, I think I know what I want to end up majoring in when I go to university. So with that, I actually ended up majoring in computer science at the University of Florida in the US. However, this wasn't as straightforward as originally planned, because I was always good at math. My parents knew that, and my parents were actually really worried about my choice of major. They did not think I could get a job in computer science. The quote from my mother is, "Do you think you can get a job in that?" And at the time, I was like, no, I really do think this is going to work out. I think this is going to really take off. And my mom's like, I think you should just go be a teacher. You're really good at math. And I'm like, no, I really think this is going to work out for me. I tried teaching my class at high school. We had a teacher takeover day. No one listened to me. I was like, this is not going to work out for me. So my dad was like, do whatever you want. I trust you. So follow your gut, even when others doubt you, because even if it doesn't end up working out, you will at least know that you tried. And for me, it actually ended up working out pretty well. So when I entered into university my second year, it really didn't dawn on me the gender disparity in my field until probably my second year, where I was taking an electrical engineering class. And the professor had this rule where everyone had to have at least one office hour with them. So I went in to the office hour, and one of the very first things he said was, I'm so impressed by how many women there are in the class this semester. And at the time, I really didn't understand where he was coming from. So I actually asked him, I said, how many women are in the class? Because I don't remember seeing that many. He said, there are 10. And I was like, okay, there are 190 people in this class, and there's women. So, okay, this is like, I guess, rude awakening of what I have to come, but that's completely fine. What I also ended up finding out as part of that is like there are loads of lovely gentlemen that I ended up working with, and I was actually not treated just fine. I was not treated poorly in any sense of the word, so it really wasn't that big of a problem. It was just something I kind of like got over pretty quickly. But one thing that served me well in university was just talking to people and being curious. And as part of this, I remember one time I was walking around campus and they were having a graduate school fair with a bunch of universities. There weren't necessarily universities that I thought I was going to go to for grad school, but I was like, oh, I'll just go explore. This was my second year. So I kind of like talked to different people and kind of shared my story and what I was interested in. And one lovely lady said, you know what, I think you really line up well for this specific fellowship, which I had never heard of. But after she told me about it, I kind of did some research, and then a couple years later, I actually ended up applying for it and getting it. And all that to say, it all happened because I just happened to talk to, see an opportunity, talk to someone, share what I was interested in, not actually think anything would come of it, but just to explore. So as part of this, like always just talk to people, be curious. You never know where they may end up being able to point you next. So I kind of took a very traditional route where after I finished undergraduate school, I actually ended up going to graduate school in the US at Georgia Tech to pursue my master's in computer science. And this was definitely an area of stretch and growth, where I say kind of get comfortable being uncomfortable. Really ended up getting into research, taking a lot of courses in areas which I previously had no exposure to. And as part of that, my network came into play because the other females as well as males that I ended up working with, whether it be on class assignments, whether it would be on actual research, we really kind of like created this bond, and it was really helpful when it was time for us all to kind of branch out into industry, because then we can kind of share our experiences with respect to internships that we had while we were in school, as well as just share learnings on.
Jojo, if you want my attention, get up and come and talk to me.
So, however, with respect to grad school,
Jojo,
I would recommend
what are you aiming at?
Can everyone other than Benedict please put yourselves
Can
on
you,
mute?
what is it that you want?
I want my One second.
Okay, I'll continue. No worries.
Sorry about that.
Totally fine. So my one tip with respect to grad school is only go if it really interests you. Don't go because you think it's going to get you more money. Only go because you just want the experience of either a research, learning, exploring. Because otherwise, if you're thinking about it from another standpoint, you're probably better off just going straight into industry and getting experience. So speaking of going in industry, when I graduated from grad school, I actually ended up starting off at IBM. That was my first job. Now with that I had some fantastic mentors and coworkers that I worked with, and I was able to really benefit from asking for help. Pretty much taking it where I knew it's really helpful to know what you don't know. So when I went in, I just went in hungry to learn. And with that, whenever I would come in contact with someone who I perceived pretty interesting, I would try to have lunch with them. I would try to like meet up, or just actually tell them like, hey, I'm really impressed with what you're doing here. I would love to learn about that, or I would love to get involved with that. And one area of that is with respect to patents. So over at IBM, patenting is a pretty big thing. And when I first joined, I was just like, I don't know how I could get a patent. I can't even see myself as someone who would get involved in that. So I ended up running into one gentleman who at IBM, they had this thing called master inventors, which are essentially people who have actually gotten many patents issued to them. And not only that, they're actually on boards which recommend to IBM whether or not you should actually pursue patenting a specific idea. So I kind of went up to him. I was at the time really, really shy, and I said, hey, I see that you are really involved in patenting. I would love to get involved. I don't really even know how to come up with an idea. Would you mind kind of just sharing your experience with me so that I can, and kind of help me on this journey? And I was really fortunate where he was like, yes, I'm really happy to take the time. And with that, he actually kind of spurned on where it's kind of like just asking probing questions. I would talk about various areas where I could see improvement being possible. And through those conversations, I actually ended up doing my very first patent, and kind of like got on a roll where I kind of went from being a person that it's like, I don't know if I'm even possible coming up with an idea, where to a person where not only would I come up with ideas, but I would work with other people and help them kind of like cultivate their ideas. And all of that happened from not being afraid to ask for help and guidance. As well as I highly recommend exploring, getting a mentor, as well as mentoring other people. So as I kind of proceeded on my patent journey, I actually ended up mentoring other people inside of IBM to be able to create patents. And as part of that, actually collaborate and co-invent with them, which is a really unique and fun experience. And with that, I kind of got this sense of, you're capable of doing whatever you want, but you have to actually put in the work. So for me, with my career, I started off at one level. Because of the patent work that I did, that actually ended up getting me to the second level, but then I stalled. And I didn't really understand why, because I was just like, I'm doing great work. My boss seems to be happy, but I'm not getting promoted. And what I realized was that I actually needed to let my company know that getting promoted was important to me, and I wasn't fine just staying at the status quo. So once I did that, then all of a sudden, more opportunities for me to really show that I could work at the next level were actually available. And then whenever that opportunity came, I like grabbed it and just like ran with it and executed extremely well. Part of that is through networking. So actually finding out those opportunities, you have to let people know what you're interested in. But as you end up executing and doing well, the good thing is you'll get a lot of opportunities thrown at you. The bad news is you can't do it all. So then you have to end up evaluating what you're actually going to work on and being picky on what you're going to say yes to. But with that, not everything is perfect. So sometimes you think you have this opportunity. I remember I was at IBM, there was this new role I wanted to take. I was super excited for it. The hiring manager was super excited with me coming on board. And then I got blocked, where essentially you're like, no, you can't switch because you're too critical for this one area here. And that was a learning opportunity. It was like, do not become the super critical person that you can't, that they won't let you move to something else. So while yes, you want to be great at your job, you also want to make sure you set it up well where someone else can kind of pick up from where you're leaving off. But so I was super bummed that I couldn't take on that opportunity, but it actually ended up being a blessing in disguise. Because as I kind of executed in that with the lens of knowing that, hey, make sure you're not completely irreplaceable, an even better opportunity came around. So when that opportunity came around, I kind of like took it by the horns, did a really good job. And for background, while I was over at IBM, I worked on a concept called enterprise social software to kind of like help people collaborate. Well, that actually ended up working into the following job that I ended up doing. So after many years at IBM, I actually left to go join Google because Google had a product called Google Plus. It was a social network. And I was like, oh, I've been doing enterprise social. I think I want to try out and see what consumer social will look like. So I came in as an L4. I actually was able to accelerate pretty fast at the company up to an L7 in 6 years. And I say that because it's not necessarily where you start. It's like, where do you want to go? Where's your drive? So when I came in, I knew I wanted to execute. I knew I wanted to have impact. But as part of that, I also knew I had to have pretty tough skin. So there are going to be times where where you may end up feeling really passionate about a specific direction, and you may have a lot of headwinds. So make sure you know why you believe that the direction you're in is the right way, and be able to clearly articulate that, and also understand that there may be people who don't necessarily see the vision just yet. So just continue to work through, but also understand that you can't do everything by yourself. So many of the biggest achievements I've had, I've worked with loads of people. So I highly recommend embracing humility. And one thing that has kind of helped with respect to my Google Assistant is making sure that you ask for what you want, and more specifically, letting people know what's important to you. So for me, it was kind of like growing my scope, growing my area of influence, and being able to kind of like constantly challenge myself. And I was very fortunate that by me voicing that, managers would end up putting me in positions, giving me projects that need to get done that actually ended up helping me show that off. So on that, I'll kind of like switch it over to Victoria.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, Bernadette. Like, it's so inspiring and refreshing to see like how far you've come in your journey and all the obstacles that you kind of went through and all the lessons you've learned. And I think it's quite important as well to know about, when you started out in high school, how people were telling you, you can't do this, or be a teacher instead, but you kind of stuck with your gut. And I think having that representation for younger people in school is really important, so that they can start to see that, well, actually we can get into STEM courses and subjects as well. But yeah, thank you so much for that. That was brilliant. And yes, over to you, Victoria.
Thanks, everyone. Hi, I am Victoria Pepiat, co-founder and COO of a tech company called Phrasee. So Phrasee is technology that empowers brands with AI-powered copywriting. You may not have heard of us, but you've probably experienced us without even realizing it. So this is just a small selection of the kind of brands that we work with. And if you receive anything like email communications, push notifications, SMS, Facebook ads, then you will have actually experienced Phrasee's AI without realizing it, because the copy that's been written within that email or within that push notification has actually been written by AI, and that's Phrasee's AI. So it's not supposed to be distinguishable, so it will always sound like somebody within the marketing department. But yes, I'm afraid technology is out there, and it's not here to replace copywriters. It's here to aid copywriters and the decent content that copywriters are writing, to ensure that it's seen by more people, to ensure that we get the highest level of engagement through digital comms. We've been in business since 2015. Very similar to Pip, it has been a roller coaster of 5 years. Some highs, some lows, of course. Winning awards along the way are the highs. But actually what I'm here to tell you about today is just to go into a little bit more detail about my story, and what sort of brings me here today and what I've learned along the way. And it really starts back from university. So I studied music and technology at Kingston University, which sounds more technical than it really is, if I'm honest. It was basically a music degree, and then a bit on the side was sound engineering, so recording music, making music. And in fact, my dissertation was on the sound of ABBA, so how to create that awesome wall of sound that ABBA created. I was very, very lucky when I graduated from Kingston. I actually went straight into the music industry and landed my first job within Universal Music. I sort of did some job hopping for the different labels. So I was at Mercury Records and Island Records, but actually not doing anything with any of my engineering qualifications. At that point, I was working throughout in marketing and promotions. And I suppose back then, that was one of my first sort of experiences of working in a very male-dominated industry, because actually, particularly the senior roles within the music industry, there were very, very few female leaders. However, I actually happened to have one of the very few female bosses who had worked in the industry for, I think, over 20 years. And she had a very distinct style. So I remember she wore the same trouser suit every day, the same types of trousers, a white t-shirt, and she was very, very matter of fact. And she believed that, you know, you had to be very, very serious and very, very strict in the way that you behaved in order to succeed. Now, at that time, and in fact, it's something that's carried on throughout my whole lifestyle, is I had always had a love of pink, the colour fuchsia pink. I even used to drive around on a pink scooter. When I got married, all our guests, the dress code was a touch of pink. And I didn't hide it. Like, I was like, I'm not ashamed of it. And one of my first pieces of advice, career advice that I ever got from a boss, it was about a year into my role at Universal. And she took me aside and she said to me, listen, Vic, you're really not going to get anywhere in this business by liking pink and being too feminine. And I was so shocked that anyone could even say something like that. That, as you'll see from the next point in my career, when I went to then set up my first business with my husband, which was a creative agency, we founded in 2005, I suitably called it the Pink Group. And in fact, it was something that we became renowned for. I would always turn up to every client meeting with a touch of pink. I'd always have pink nails or a pink portfolio bag, and actually it was part of me, and I loved it and I embraced it. And it was a bit of a, well, I'll show you, really, I think. And it was a really, really successful 10 years of running an agency. We had awesome customers, we had an awesome team. We only ever grew to about 15 of us in the team. And I would say it was definitely a lifestyle business. Very, very passionate about it, but it was first and foremost a lifestyle business. And then in about 2013/2014, one of my customers at the time, a chap called Parry Marm, he came to me and said, Vic, I've had this idea, and basically pitched the concept of Phrasee, an AI-powered copywriter that could basically outperform anything that a human could do. And he said, I've got this vision. And I was like, what? No one's doing this already? And he was like, not in the way that we can build it. And I've already been in touch with Neil Yeager, who's now our third co-founder, a chap that he went to university with. And Neil says he can build it. I think we can succeed in this, but we've got no idea on how to run a business. What do you think? Are you in? And I think it took me about 3 or 4 seconds. And I was like, I am in on this. This sounds like an amazing opportunity. And we were really, really fortunate. By the time we launched in February 2015, our first year of business, it was very much like Pip said, you know, you had these highs. I remember we all celebrated the first customer we signed. At that point, we had a very different business model. I think we went out and celebrated and spent about £600 on margaritas and an amazing Mexican celebration. And the first customer that we signed was actually paying £49 a month. So terribly unprofitable. And we then pivoted quite a lot in that first year. We learned a lot. We learned that there's not a one size fits all. You know, having run a creative agency, brand voice is so fundamental. And if you've got any form of AI that's trying to write copy. It needs to sound like a human, but actually more importantly, it needs to sound like the brand itself, because the customers that we work with have very, very distinct tone of voice. So, you know, the way that eBay communicates is very different to Domino's, is very different to Hilton. And so we then sort of pivoted the business really, really quickly in the first year. And we learned that actually what we needed to do was build these bespoke language models on a brand to brand basis. And I think that was basically our turning point that first year when we did that massive pivot. So within our first year, actually we'd signed customers like Virgin Holidays, who is still a customer now. But actually the big one came 24 minutes into our second year of trading, when we signed our first contract with eBay, and it was a global contract. And I think at that point, I'd been sort of running the Pink Group and Phrasee sort of side by side for sort of 6 to 12 months. And the moment that we signed eBay, we were like, wow, okay, this is the pivotal one. We need to really, really go for this. The tech works. It makes a huge amount of incremental revenue for the customers that we sign. And we were getting results, and we were starting to get traction. It was a truly innovative product. And that was 5 years ago. And so we've had this amazing journey to where we are now. We're just over a team of 50. We are 55% women, which is pretty much unheard of in the tech industry, which I'm super, super proud of. And I thought what would be really interesting is just to run through, and for me to share just a couple of the things that I've learned along the way in my journey with Phrasee specifically. And let me just get this. So when we actually launched, and I think this goes across a lot of what females think about founding business, especially within tech, was that actually, what am I going to bring to the table, and how can I be launching and founding a tech business when I don't know that much? But actually, what I had to keep focusing on was my skill set was that I knew everything about running a company, and I knew as well about the customer side, how to make people happy, how to build those teams, and to ensure that we've got great, happy, satisfied customers. And I could also bring the organization drive and determination that I had to the business. What I had absolutely no, or at least very little idea about, was AI. So I was going into a whole new world that I had no experience on. And it's been a real learning curve for me. Alongside the AI, email marketing specifically, because when we originally launched, we weren't just an AI-powered copywriter that you could use across all of your digital channels. We were specifically about email marketing. And then also technology, just marketing tech. I didn't have experience. I was way more on the creative side and running that business from my creative agency days. But what I think the key thing that I've learned, and the amount of information and knowledge that I've taken on the past 5 years, is that you don't need to be a techie to work in tech. I think this is one of the barriers. And when I'm talking to a lot of younger people coming out of school, you know, they're like, well, do I need to actually be a coder? Well, no, you don't. There are so many other roles within tech companies, and everyone's always recruiting and looking for those softer skills as well. And that's way more what I brought to the business. Yes, now I am an experienced, and I'm what we would probably call an expert in the areas that I had no knowledge about, but that's taken time, and it's been quite a journey. So along that route, what I thought I'd share with you today are some of my top tips. And in fact, we've covered a couple of these already with both Pip and Bernadette, but my first one is about finding your tribe. This is crucial to me. So things like this, Tech Ladies London, like find 2 or 3 networks where you can surround yourself with awesome, like-minded people. It's invaluable, and it gives you that support and encouragement when, not just even if you're an entrepreneur, but just in day to day when you're going into a new sector that you might not have enough experience in, or you just want to be around other inspirational people. So I do 2 or 3. So we've got London Tech Ladies. I also am a member of a group called Women of Email, which is specifically for women who work in email marketing. And then I'm also a member of an awesome tribe called Sister Snog, who I've been a member of for 9 years. Actually, it started when I was at the Pink Group. And that is basically a sort of tribe of female entrepreneurs who get together throughout the month, and they have lots of different events. And it's my crux, should we say, it's what keeps me going. Like, yes, they celebrate your wins with you, but actually when you want to have a tribe that really makes a difference, it's when the days aren't so good and you're having that dip and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can carry on. You're losing your motivation, you're thinking, how am I going to get out of it? And actually just surrounding yourself with like-minded people really, really helps. So find a tribe is my first top tip. The second one, which I know I'm on repeat now, because again, Pip and Bernadette have both mentioned this, but get a mentor. Honestly, I am such an advocate and a big believer in mentors. I have a mentor, I am a mentor. We've all got a wealth of experience to share with each other. And I found I had my first mentor when I ran Pink, and I was matched up with an awesome woman called Felicity Kelly, who was a member of the Design Business Association. Honestly, after my first year of meeting up with her monthly, we doubled our turnover the subsequent year, because having the confidence and just having somebody that you can turn to in those moments of despair when you're like, oh gosh, I don't know what to do. I've gone through every avenue and I just don't know what to do, and you're pulling your hair out. Someone go just to be there to support you, get you through, and to give you advice. Someone who's been there and done it. It honestly is invaluable. In fact, I was gutted that I hadn't done it sooner. So highly recommend that. Make mistakes and don't have regrets. And I think this is one of the biggest ones that I've really had to push myself and think about in the past few years with Phrasee. We're all so nervous of making mistakes. But actually, it's the only way that we grow as humans, and that's throughout everything. So if it's throughout your existing role, give it a go. You're only going to get better by making those mistakes and learning. And my big thing is about not having regrets, because it's really, really easy to make a mistake and then focus on why it didn't work and then just dwell on it, and it's just not productive. So one of the things that we always encourage, especially at Phrasee, is listen, you're going to make mistakes, and if you make a mistake once, absolutely no issue. Just learn why, pivot, don't do it again, and push on forward. So yeah, make mistakes, don't have regrets. You'll also see a running theme here. I'm a bit of a fan of a motivational quote, and today's theme comes specifically from Oprah Winfrey, who I'm a big fan of. The next one, focus on your strengths. You can't be good at everything. This is really hard, I think, especially if you're thinking about starting your own business, because at that early stage, I remember, like, for the first 2 years, until you're able to properly start growing a team, you do have to put on many, many hats, and you do have to be good at the accounts, at invoicing, at marketing, at sales, at customer success. But actually, you will know what your strengths are. And I think this is true even if you're not running your own business. In your day-to-day role, like, focus on your strengths. You really cannot be good at everything. And I have to apply this to myself more so than anyone else, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I want everything to be right and I want to be able to do that. But actually, the things that I'm really, really good at are building relationships, are building those customer relationships, are making sure the team's happy, are making sure that we've got customers who are our biggest advocates. You know, I'm super proud of the customers that we work with globally at Phrasee, and I've got exceptional relationships with all of them. And I think what's brilliant about, as we've grown the team, and a process that we've just been through as well, is we've looked at personality profiling. And what makes a really brilliant team in any situation is actually that diversity. You can't have everyone being good at everything. What you want to see is when you bring that team and that mix of everyone together, that you form this really, really powerful strength. And even more so, I'd say, if anyone is thinking about starting their own business, and they're looking at potential co-founders. What's worked really well with us and Phrasee is that myself, Neil and Parry couldn't be more different. We really, really couldn't. But actually, when you bring us all together, the three of us gel perfectly for strengths. And I think that's been a huge part of our success. And finally, I have to say it, don't be a bitch. One of the, I think, especially through my earlier days in work, I think one of the things that a lot of people think is actually success is a pie. And if you're going to be successful, then that's less success for me. But actually, we can all be successful together. And I think if you've got job satisfaction and your happiness through success, you're more likely to succeed if you've got that supportive network and those championing around you, and they're going to do that by you supporting them as well. So yeah, I'm a big believer on it can be done, and you can be nice while doing it and succeed. And so finally, really to sort of end my talk was, this is not an Oprah Winfrey quote, this is myself. Everything is possible, and it's not to do with luck. Honestly, it's to do with hard work and determination. And if you've got the passion there, I think anything's possible. And the thing that keeps me going when times are really, really tough is I have to remind myself, and it's my little mantra when I wake up in the morning, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And just have that at the back of your mind when things are really, really tough. Keep going, because it really, really will change. And good luck. Yeah, thank you.
What a brilliant talk. Oh my God, amazing. Thank you so much for that. And I think a key takeaway here that I think a lot of people have asked about in the past as well is you don't need to be a techie to get into the tech industry. There's so many people out there that want to work in tech companies or startups and so on, and they just feel they don't have the right criteria because they're not techie people. But there's so many opportunities out there, and I think that's quite a good takeaway for us today. And general themes, you know, on mentorship and getting the help and being stronger together. And I think, you know, it's great to have all these themes coming up over and over again, because I think they're quite important to have. So thank you all so much. And with that, we can now get into our Q&A part of the session. We have a couple of questions. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions with their RSVP on Meetup as well. We will go through a couple of those. But yeah, let's just get started. So the first question that we've got is, what was the hardest lesson or skill that you had to develop to enable you to be successful? Who would like to go first? Victoria, do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, okay. I think, I mean, I've covered a bit of it, but resilience, that's been a big part of the past 5 years, if I'm really honest. Like, learning to really, really push myself and not be scared. You know, I never used to really like public speaking, you know, so doing this, for instance, you know, I love communicating and I love being with people, but resilience in every part. So like, just constantly be pushing yourself, and it will be hard, but actually, as you do it more frequently, you'll build resilience and it will get easier.
Amazing. Bernadette, do you want to go next?
Actually, it's the exact same thing. For me, it was public speaking. I was always deathly afraid of it, still am to this day. But what I found is when you have ideas of value, you have to kind of like get over it and focus on like what you actually want to achieve. So yeah.
Amazing. Pip?
Yeah, it's kind of linked. I think what I found really tough at the beginning was when the low bits were happening and just trying to get through. And I think what's been most valuable is trying to shift my mindset, that actually what I've realized now is when things are going really badly wrong, that's actually when I'm learning the most. And so now when things are going wrong, I'm just constantly writing down notes of how to not repeat those mistakes. And actually my mindset now shifts to, okay, I'm learning now, which is great. Actually, when things are going too well now, it makes me anxious because I'm like, something's going to go wrong. So yeah, I think it was shifting my mindset to actually the bad, tough times, if you learn from them, can be really good. So but it's a shift that took a long time.
And I think following on from that has there been something fundamental that you've had to change about yourself or your working style in order to be successful?
Do you know what? I would love to say no. I mean, when it comes to the team and the company I've built, absolutely not. What I did have with our last investment round, that was challenging. Okay, so I'm a massive hugger, which is not great in COVID, by the way. So I should not be allowed out in public. But, you know, hilariously, some of the first investment pitches, I'd actually go in for a hug with investors. And obviously that's completely inappropriate. And my COO is kind of feeding back. Sadly, what I did realize is that the more alpha I became in investment pitches, the easier it got. So I had to change my style to raise investment, which is something I thought I'd never do, but it was something that was a necessity at the time.
Victoria?
Yeah, probably pretty similar to Pip. I think also one of the things that I've been very conscious of, I try not to change the way that I am. I actually can't control it anyway, so but the language that I use, I think I've definitely alerted myself to words you should and shouldn't use, especially when communicating on email. Words like just, wipe it out, starting an email sorry to chase or sorry like and apologizing. And I think vocabulary, I think that would be the only thing that I wouldn't say I've changed, but I'm more aware of.
For me, I think it's more just kind of like embracing what written communication can do and being very direct to what Victoria said, as well as what Pip was talking about, just making sure that you're very crisp and to the point of what you're trying to communicate. That transition has helped me.
And I just want to say there is a lot of support here for hugging. So yeah, people want to hug investors. I mean, you know, it's something that people are quite interested in, you know, so it might work. You never know.
I mean, no one should let me out the boat at the moment. It's like a natural instinct. So I just go in and then I'm like, no, right now, this is
a couple of questions that we've had from the audience previously. So being a woman in a male-dominated industry, what are your tips on speaking up but being taken seriously? Who'd like to go first?
I can start on that. So I remember one time I was in a meeting and I was actually the tech lead over the project and people were talking and I just could not get anything in. So I actually ended up standing up, just standing right behind my chair and just waited there for like a moment. And then all of a sudden they look like, oh, Grant, do you have something to say? I'm like, yes. Yes, I do. But what I found is there's where you can be very intentional about it, as well as you can also kind of like set up allies. So before I go into a meeting, I may end up having like pre-meetings with people and making sure that I have my allies who then can actually call me out if need be. But that typically doesn't happen as much anymore, but in the past, I would be very cognizant of it.
I mean, I can jump in from our perspective. I'm very lucky at Phrasee. We don't have an issue with that, but this is probably because we're evenly balanced. Outside Phrasee, I think my only advice would be, I always call people out on it, whether you should or you shouldn't. I always say, if I get interrupted, I say, actually, I would like to finish what I'm saying, because some people don't realize that they're doing it. It might not be intentional, and it might not be specific to the fact that you're a female either. It's just that some people want to dominate conversations. But yeah, that would be my advice.
And sort of linked to the ally thing, I think something that is really important for all of us to be, you know, this is us coming together, you know, so if you see this happening to someone else in a meeting, help them, because that's definitely something I've built at the Dots, where everyone should be each other's allies and help others find voices. So You know, there's lots of women who will be on this call right now who have, you know, are more confident to speak out. If you are that one, then let's all help each other to find their voices. I think it's really important to tune into what's going on to meetings, and can you help someone else in the room?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've had a comment as well. It's having the confidence to hold your own, which, you know, it is all about being confident and making sure that you speak up when you can. Another question we've had, which seems to be quite common in a lot of events, and I think a lot of people do have issues with this, imposter syndrome. So you've got imposter syndrome, and then you've got, you know, self-belief and the whole fake it till you make it. How do you strike a balance so you're not coming across as either too shy or intimidated, but also maybe not too arrogant? How do you strike that balance?
I just try to stick to the facts, and as well as I see it as a two-way street. When I am talking about what I can bring to the table, I'm also helping that company or whoever I'm engaging with. So it's a value to them to know how I can help them. So if I end up being too shy about it, then I'm doing a disservice to them, and I'm also doing a disservice to myself with respect to opportunities I may have. So that's at the same time, I kind of try to focus on knowing that many things which are worth doing, they're not done alone. So just make sure that I am also willing to share the credit and make it very clear where my contribution ends and where others begin.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Bernadette. And I think it's similar to what I was talking about earlier on focusing and understanding what your strengths are. I think often we're really harsh on ourselves because we expect and we think that we should be good at everything, but actually if you just take some time to go, actually this is where my skill sets are and this is where I'm really, really strong, your confidence will naturally grow. And that's not to say that you shouldn't be pushing yourself to constantly learn and try new things and be learning. You know, like I mentioned, AI for me has been a whole new world, but I've learned so much, and along that way, if you can surround yourself with other people that will help you through that education process too, yeah, I'd strongly advise that.
Yeah, I mean, it's got, you know, I think firstly, I think we should all just realize that everyone has imposter syndrome at any point, male, female, everyone, you know, it just happens. I think for me, the fear of failure in those early days was so acute that, like, how do I, you know, I'm trying to go up against LinkedIn and I'm a non-tech founder, you know, that sort of fear. But, you know, then I was kind of like thinking about the people in my life and who really matters to me. And I was like, well, you know what, the people I love most, they're going to be so proud I gave this journey a crack, you know, they're going to be so happy I did. And so it was at that point I just went, you know, if I fail, so what? If someone criticizes me for failing, well, they're not very nice people and I don't want them to be in my life. And I think, again, when I was like, that kind of fear of failure went away, it really helped with everything else. But also did just surrounding myself with people that kind of just say, you got this. And, you know, the reality is I've edited my life in terms of people in my life. There's an amazing guy called Claude Williams who says, you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with most. And I've just basically surrounded myself with people that inspire me, motivate me, cheerleaders who kind of say, you got this. And I've now, like, avoid the drains because this journey is grueling enough. I don't want people to put me down and make any imposter syndrome worse. I need people to help me get through it. And
you're totally right, Pip. Totally right. Yeah. And I think this is also where we're all 3 of us were mentioning about, if you've got a mentor, this is the perfect situation. That's that person that will help and champion you, just to give you that little bit of a push to go, okay, yeah, I can do it. Like, if you're needing that.
Yeah. We have a comment. Absolutely. That cheer squad is so important. And that is so true. We're going to take a couple of questions now from the Q&A section here. And people have been upvoting their favorite questions. So we'll go in that order. And the first one is from Phrasee, who says, my daughter is dyslexic. I want to help inspire her through you. She's only 15 so far, but the facts about dyslexia at the beginning of Pip's wonderful presentation was useful to help her confidence. Would it be possible to have those facts, please?
Absolutely. I've written an article on it, so I will share it. Or I'll try and grab it in a second and I'll put it on the chat. But yeah, I mean, the reality is people very quickly, I mean, people think, you know, dyslexia, and it was always termed as a disability. I mean, you weren't allowed to donate sperm if you were dyslexic because it was a disability until like 10 years ago. So the reality is, though, actually the way our brains are programmed. So one thing, there's a piece of Harvard research that found we have wider peripheral vision. So we're taking in more data all the time, which is tend to be why we index as entrepreneurs or creatives, because, you know, humans are the most sophisticated machines that exist. We're taking in loads of data all the time and synthesizing that into gut feeling and intuition and creativity. And as dyslexics, we just have an advantage. We're taking in more data. So I'll send you the article. I'll put it on the chat now. I'll find it right now.
Amazing, thank you. The next question is, what are some mistakes that you've seen women specifically make to progress in tech? What did you learn from those examples? Who would like to go first?
I'm not sure I've got anything to share on that one. Only because I've come into tech relatively late. So it's been the last 5 years with Phrasee. Bernadette, have you?
I'm kind of struggling with it. I think from just a more general standpoint, focusing on things that you can't control. That's something that I've seen derail some of my fellow coworkers, where it's kind of like there's a fine line of what you can and can't control. And if you focus on what you can't control, it then takes you away from being able to have the focus on things you can move. So, yeah.
I think one thing I've really noticed, interestingly, is, and this is not just tech, but obviously most of my team is tech, is when people start at the dots, men negotiate their salaries from the moment they start. And obviously there is biases, there's not all men and women are the same, but in general, I found on average, men negotiate their salaries when they start at the dots and women don't. And so, yeah, just negotiate your salary. Nothing's, you know, if a company wants you, they want you. The only thing they can say is no. And I think that's a really important thing that I have experienced with my own team, that women aren't asking for promotions as quickly as the guys. So I have to be conscious of that and make sure I'm promoting them at the right time. And they're not negotiating their salaries on coming in. So, you know, you deserve what you deserve, which is great. You've got to ask for things sometimes.
Absolutely. And I think that goes nicely into our next question, which is how to best ask for a promotion and progress in your career.
I can kind of start. So me, I typically phrase the conversation of, I want to grow and I want to end up having more impact on the company. And with that, most companies will be like, yes, of course, we want you to have more impact and make us better. This is great. But at the same time, when I'm voicing that, I also say, and I'm looking for, I'm doing this, and I also am interested in this role here. Is this work that you're giving me going to set me up for that? And I remember there was one opportunity that was floated to me after I'd been at Google for a couple of years, and it seemed pretty interesting. And before I accepted it, I actually asked the manager, I was like, so I have a goal. I'd like to get to this level at this time frame. Do you see this role having a path for me to do that? And I could see that the manager wasn't actually expecting me to ask something like that. So we kind of took it back, and then he thought about it. He was like, you know, it's slightly aggressive, but I actually think there is a path here for that. So I ended up accepting the role, and I actually held him to it. So on a periodic basis, I would kind of remind that we had this conversation, and how are we tracking towards our common goal of me executing on this and you positioning me for this promotion. So I think if you kind of set it up as a partnership, it can help out.
Bernadette, I love that. It's so funny because, you know, obviously a lot of people on the dots are looking for work, and something that we hear from employers all the time is that whole, you know, principle of a North Star, which is obviously a tech principle in itself, but, you know, individually we can all have North Stars, like where do we want to get to eventually? And yeah, communicating it and helping. Companies who want good talent want to keep that talent. So if they can help you get there, they're going to help you get there. So it's just about articulating or finding, well, one, where do you want to go? And two, then articulating, this is where I want to go long term, and heading for that North Star.
Yeah. And it's exactly the same from my perspective. One of the things that we've done to encourage a lot of the sort of the team as they've grown within Phrasee is to speak up and to be very, very vocal about anything that they want to, like, to understand what their next journey within the business is, and for us to be very, very clear on what it takes for them to get there, because promotions don't just happen overnight. You've got to grow as a person, you've got to be offering more to the business, and if you know what that means, then you can achieve it. The issue that you've got with, of course, a lot of startups is you don't have the corporate structure to be able to go, this is going to be your direct career path. Like when you often join a startup, you know, when there were 5 or 6 of us, you know, we've got a whole load of roles that didn't even exist before Phrasee. You know, we have what we call language technicians who build all our language models, you know, so we've had to sort of go on that journey with our team, but we're very, very aware, and we're very, very big on speaking up and being vocal and trying to work out what the career path is, and also being sure to encourage anyone that also may want to move from a department to a completely different area, because training can happen, and like Pip said, you just want to look after your team and watch them flourish. You know, we've still got our team members from our initial very first hires 5 years ago, and their career path has been nothing set of normal, honestly, but they love what they do, and they've tried a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then they've progressed throughout the business.
Amazing, thank you. The next question we have is, once you found your vision, how did you know where to start?
That's it. I can start on that one. My big thing is you need to have the people and the vision around it, but then you need to have an MVP pretty quickly. Like before you even start your business planning, you need to know that you can get something up and running. So an MVP is a minimum viable product, so something that works, that you can test and you can see that you get a bit of traction with, especially if you're looking to launch a business and then go for investment. You need to, it's so much easier when you're talking to potential investors if you've just got a little bit of traction. And so if you can get a working product, just a basic thing up and running, that's what you need to do. And I think finding the team that you can work with, so it's much easier if you've got, I mean, well, Pip's got a different story, I know, but I've got 2 co-founders, and the fact that the 3 of us were there to really, really champion each other on was phenomenal. And I don't think I could have done it solo, and nor could either of my other 2 co-founders. So finding that sort of team to kickstart it is crucial.
Yeah, I'd add to that, team is everything. No, I am that nutter who's a sole female founder, but I do have my founding team has been with me since day one, and they're all on share options. I'm just too selfish to make them co-founders. Isn't that awful? But anyway, but yeah, no, I think exactly what Victoria was saying. I think the other thing is, you know, nothing really, when it comes to building a product, a tech product, nothing really matters apart from product market fit. All the other stuff around it is important to understand, but the most important thing you're ever going to get to is product market fit for that product. And, you know, it was wonderful hearing Victoria's story. You know, they were doing a number of pivots, the amount the dots have evolved over time, you know, but product market fit is the most important thing really to get to before anything else.
Bernadette, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think they covered it.
Cool, then I think I'm going to give you the next question first. Have any of you faced any barriers being a woman in tech? If yes, how did you overcome them?
Barrier being a woman in tech. I think if anything, maybe being underestimated. So there have been times where people have been shocked or surprised with respect to the ideas that I may end up bringing to the table. As well as maybe coming at it from a different angle. So when you do have a room that is primarily one gender, there is a tendency at times, there's a risk that thinking could focus on one area. So there are many times where I may be in a room and I'm looking at this from a completely different perspective, and it seems like completely obvious to me, or I can't understand why everything is going in a different direction. And then, if anything, I kind of look at it as a superpower, as like, oh, you can actually look at this from a different point of view. And then many times there may be some surprise or shock. So if anything, there's a chance you may be underestimated, and you can actually use it to your advantage.
Victoria, Pip, would you guys like to add anything to that?
I'm happy to. I think, yeah, I mean, I mentioned it already, but investment was a nightmare in many ways. You know, there was times where, well, I learned very quickly that I couldn't turn up without a man in the room, for just scary but true. There were investment pitches where the investors would just talk to my head of product or my COO and not actually talk to me, even though they had to very uncomfortably say Pip is CEO a number of times in the room. But weirdly, again, I think what I learned about that journey was what was brilliant about that is I learned out who the arseholes were pretty quickly. And actually that might be an advantage that my male founders wouldn't have. You know, those investors were just not good investors. You know, those weren't very good people. They're not the kind of people that you should work with or anyone should work with. So I guess I kind of shifted my mindset to be like, actually, this is great. I'm learning. This is like due diligence on my investor really early, knowing you're an arsehole and I don't want to work with you. So once I kind of shifted my head that way, it actually kind of was, it was okay to get through. But yeah, my trick for that was the first month of when we raised our last round, I just pitched every person that I'd heard was an arsehole to get pitch ready. And then it was horrific. It was the most grueling, awful thing I'd ever done. But by the end of that, I'd had all the questions down pat. I'd sort of been through all the kind of horribleness that by the time I started meeting people I really wanted to meet, then I was ready. And funnily enough, I think this is really good advice in the career. It's the same as like when you go for a job. Sometimes it's good to get a few practice interviews in first with people that you don't really care about, so that by the time you get to that interview with a company you really want, you're ready to nail it. And it's kind of the same with raising investment.
Yeah, I mean, for me to just, I've been very, very lucky. So I've got to be honest, on the investment side, I was part of a report that HSBC did last year about bias in when raising investment, because it is so much harder for women to do it. And I was very lucky because I had a male co-founder. So like Pip said, you know, in those meetings, there were both of us and we were tag teaming. So I was very fortunate. However, I know of a lot of other female entrepreneurs who have really, really struggled with it, because I think it's all about it's balance from the top down. And the problem is, until we have more females on the other side of the table as well, we're not going to see that balance. So I'm a big believer in balance across business is good, but it's got to come from top down. It's got to come from board level. And that's why I'm a big believer in mentoring, so that we're championing like females up through the business. Like we actually last year started what we call the Phrasee School of Business, where we can champion everyone in the business just to upskill and learn those management skills so that we can help them progress with their careers.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much. I'm actually so sad to say that we've run out of time for Q&A. I'm sure we could have gone on and on for hours. It's been so inspirational and so brilliant to hear from you guys. I'm just going to share my slides really quickly just to finish off and wrap up. So just again, please remember to join us for the next session. The event will be live after this session. Please make sure you do join us. And then if this decide, there we go. And then feedback. After the session, once you leave the meeting, you are going to get a survey form. Please do fill it out. We'd really appreciate it. We'd love to get all your feedback, good, bad, whatever it is. We want to hear from you. So please make sure that you fill out those forms. Also, we've got a couple of exciting things coming up, including our rebrand and our team structure. So stay tuned and join our Facebook group as well as our new Instagram page, so that you don't miss any updates. You can find us at London Tech Ladies. And again, don't forget, we've got one leadership role open. We will be giving information on that soon, and we'd love to hear from you if you're interested. And with that, if I can exit, how do I stop share? There we go. And with that, we've come to the end of our event, and I would like to extend on behalf of London Tech Ladies a massive thank you to our three wonderful speakers for joining us and sharing their amazing stories. Incredibly inspiring, and really showed us what great resilience and hard work can achieve. And I'm sure, like us, we can all give them a silent round of individual applause for their time and insight. It's been brilliant, so thank you so much. And of course, a huge thank you to all our audience members for joining us today in our first of many online events. I'm sure we will all be taking quite a lot away from today's session, and we hope to see you soon at future events. But for now, stay safe and take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
guys.
Thanks.
Bye. Lovely to meet you both. Bernadette, if